This is our latest project for a property development company in Brighton Marina. We've been a one-stop shop for all of the audiovisual and the IT for this project, and I'm going to show you around exactly what we've done from the initial stages right through to the end. Follow me. This is the brains behind the whole project. We've got the network and the AV rack, which houses all of the networking gear, all of the switches and routers for the project, and all of the patching for the data connections, which involve various different points around the office. So we've got the access points, which are patched in the ceiling, going all the way back to the rack, and we've got various different floor boxes, which have been cut into the floor. So this is not a raised floor, but we've been involved luckily in the early stages, and we've given channels to the electrical contractors so they can cut channels out in the floor, which gives the connections to the floor boxes. We've also got some IP phones. These phones are a Yealink model, gives the complete flexibility for them to be able to patch into any floor port that they want to patch into, and then they can make a call, whether that be inbound or outbound. We've also got a fixed Microsoft Teams room in here, which we're just doing the final stages of the setup. This is a 75-inch commercial grade screen with an anti-glare coating, and we've also got the Yealink A30 camera soundbar below there as well, with a table microphone and a meeting touchpad. Follow me to the smaller booths and I'll show you in there. So these are acoustically treated rooms for a laptop to be positioned on this desk. The users can connect in via a USB-C cable to host a meeting on their laptop. So for these bring your own device rooms, we've got the Yealink A10, which has got a built-in mic array, and we've also got the camera there, which is currently set to auto framing. So if they're sat down on a desk, it will zoom into them and auto frame to wherever they're sat in the room. So this is a super easy one cable solution. So a USB-C connection connected to their laptop, and they can host a Zoom, Google Meets, Teams, or whatever platform they want to use. We've got our rack cabinet, which is housing all of the networking stuff, housed in this box over here, but we're also fitting it inside a cabinet provided by the customer. So we've got to make sure it fits, and we've got to pull the cables through the side of the rack, as we've done here. So we fitted a grommet, and we brought this double socket out there, which is a tight fit, but luckily it's all worked out, which is good. And now we're just connecting all of these cables, which we've terminated before we fitted the cabinet. So we tested most of these, we know that they're all good, and we've ticked them off. So now we're just connecting them into the patch panel, and we should be good to go. Good job it fits. Now I just need to remember where I put the keys.
Right, so what's happening?
We are going over to our unit because annoyingly we don't have the keys for the rack. So we've got to whiz over and hope that it's there, because I'm sure I put it in the box with all the kit for the job, but it's not there. So luckily it's only about a 15-minute drive, but we'll see. Let's hope these keys are in there. So they're not. Oh, you're joking. Are they actually not? Oh my god, where are they then? They're not here, are they? Stop filming now, mate. It's actually... Cameraman Jack has just found the keys. Thank God for that.
Alright, did you find the key?
Yeah, got the keys. Thank God.
What about a data sheet? Did you get that?
So I'm just cable tying all of these off onto the patch panel to make it look super, super neat. So they'll all be individually tied off, and then we'll slide it into the rack and patch it into the switch. The reason why we've chosen to go with a keystone modular patch panel as opposed to a normal patch panel where you'd patch down, where you'd punch down, is because we've got this cabinet which the cables have got to go in. So when we did our original first fix phase, we wanted to test and terminate all of our cables, which we wouldn't have been able to do because it would have never have gone through this cabinet. If we had a traditional patch panel, if you imagine all of these cables would have been patched down, we'd have never have got that through a 60mm hole. So that's why these modular keystone jacks get you out of jail for things like that, because it enables you to be able to clear stuff off, sign bits of the job off that you don't want to have to come back to later. So that's why we would do that. These are very beneficial for these types of jobs. We are going to land all of the cables in the switch, or in the patch panel from the switch. So all the different colours are for the various VLANs that we've got on this design. So we've got the IP phones, we've got the VLAN for the office network, and we've got the VLAN for the core network devices. So we can see at a glance via the colour which VLAN we're looking at. And then we're just going to look at the drawing and land it in the switch as per the drawing. So we've got D1, which is already connected, and then D2. We're plugging into number 2, D3, and number 3, and so on, so forth. So with this project, we were involved right from the early stages, so we've been able to plan in advance as per where things are going in the room, which gives us the option to be able to closely plan exactly what's going to be on the network in terms of segregation between different networks. For example, the printer doesn't need to speak to the IP phones and vice versa. So we've been very careful to separate this network onto different what we call VLANs, which are virtual LANs. So for example, we've got a VLAN for the IP phones, so they are completely segregated from any other network. We've also got a guest network, and then we've got the main LAN, which is where everything else sits on, such as the video conferencing equipment, and if the staff want to plug in, they'll be connected to that same network as well. They then won't have access to the IP phones, for example, which only need to be on their own network and only need an outbound connection. So the easiest way that we can spot which network is on which via the patches is via the color of the cable. So we've got yellow, which is the IP phones. We've got green, which is our main office LAN. So that would be the staff LAN and all of the video conferencing devices. And then we've got the core network devices, such as the access points, all of the switches, and the cloud controller, which is on the black patch leads, which is essentially anything that only we, as in the IT administrators, would need to have access to. So those devices sit on that network, and then they would route different IP addresses as per whatever's connecting. So a way to think about this would be, if you've got an office with no walls or doors, and you've got everyone in that office being able to speak within each other's listening distance and everyone being able to hear each other, that's what a network without VLANs set up would be doing. So if you implement walls and doors, you're separating each person in their room, so they're not able to speak to each other, they're then not hearing each other's voice when they don't need to. So that's a good way of thinking about what VLANs do. It just enables you to separate areas of the network which don't need to talk to each other, which enables you to be more secure, optimization in terms of speed and reliability. We also installed a cloud controller which allows IT administrators remote access to the network for maintenance. So this gives you the ability to remotely manage your network from anywhere in the world. One of the main benefits of this is if you've got a device that's powered via PoE on the network and it locks up, which devices do over time, things tend to not work if they've been left on 24/7. So 6 months later, you might get an IP phone which all of a sudden is locked up and they can't do anything. You can log on to your cloud-based solution and you can remotely power cycle that port and turn that device on and off without even coming to site. So that's the main benefit, is being able to remotely power cycle devices on the network. I think we need to come out back in because something's not quite. The wall recess gave us millimeters to spare each side of the display, so here we are adjusting the axis to get it bang on flush with the panelling.
Is what it is.
Well, if you just do hitting something like that, man. How's that? That might have done it. Let me see. It's a bit better. Still a little bit more to one side. From here?
Oh, I don't know about that.
No?
Is it just where?
So a question we get asked quite a bit is how we'd size up for a meeting room. So there's a few things that we'd need to consider. One, of course, is the display size. The second is the elevation height of the camera and for the screen itself. Usually what we'd do in a room of this size, which is a standard 4x4 room, ideally we'd set the camera at 1.1, which would mean their eyesight, the participants in the room, would be in line with the camera's lens in the center. So we'd then usually determine the height of the display off the size of that. So this display here is a 75-inch display, and we've offset it to go 1.1 and then bring that up to a level that suits above the camera lens. This particular project, we've used a 75-inch display, which is the ideal size for this room, so everyone can see the text. Video is nice and clear. The customer on this job wanted to go for a single display, but given the size of the display, it's fine to do that. But if it was a larger room, we'd usually suggest that we'd split off between 2 displays. The reason you'd do that is to split off between the remote participants and the laptop view or the presentation view of the room. So if you imagine you're plugging in with a laptop, you've got your spreadsheet or whatever other documents that you're sharing, one of those screens is dedicated to that content and then the second is dedicated to the remote participants.